collect all his adventure sets, each sold separately.
Hovercraft comes with driver, other figures and equipment sold separately.
Say hello to that round mound of Pound and his power slam.
I was 3, and it was an Oscar Mayer weenie whistle.
This thing rules. The thing rules.
Oh, hey, what's up? I'm Brian Altano.
And I'm Max Scoville.
This is a show where we discuss something we love,
Unpack why we love it,
explain where it came from,
try to remember our first impressions of it,
share our weird stories about it,
maybe learn something new about it along the way.
but first and foremost, we're here to celebrate the fact that this thing rules.
What's your favorite toy commercial?
Okay, so I want to say that my top 3, and this is complete, I'm just coming up with this off the top of my head. The old wrestling commercials where they would have actual wrestlers just like bash the toys against each other and just scream inexplicable shit. Like they would scream their taglines or whatever, or the wrestlers aren't mic'd. So like, you know, sometimes they have microphones, but if they yell something while they're punching someone in the ring, like the Bushwhackers, they had this catchphrase called the Thunder Down Under, because they were Australian, I think. But in the commercial, they're just playing with the toys and they go, and the Thunder Brunda Runda. And we're like, what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? And me and my brothers would just like run in the room in the house and just yell Thunder Brunda Runda. I love any of the ones that were basically like in a kid's backyard where he was either rich or just like lived, like he just had this whole palatial estate back there. And then I really loved the Batman the Animated Series ones, because do you remember those? They did commercials for the Batman the Animated Series toys, and it was same thing they did, I think, with like X-Men, where they built like these shitty rooftop sets and made it look like it was like cardboard but painted and just good enough where you were like, oh, a kid could make this. And
Yeah, those were like the two flavors of action figures commercials. Is there's the incredibly beautiful manicured like landscape backyard with like a little river and a waterfall, but it's been invaded by GI Joes, and you're like, you know, blowing up sticks and shit, knocking down rock piles and things, and you see the kids in it. And then the other one, I guess there's the indoor one, there's the outdoor one, which is that, and there's the indoor one, which is like a beautiful like diorama, you know, like it's carefully staged, it looks like a fake building, all that. But then there's the two varieties where one you see the kid and the other you don't. Like sometimes it's like two kids who are like in the shot and they're playing with the toys and they're like, wow, cool action feature. And other times it's just sort of like a disembodied hand swoops in and it's like,
a hand comes in and it's like, take that, Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, those are good answers right there.
You and I think at one point during our Up at Noon tenure, pitched to do like an adult toy commercial that was like before I think it was after, but very different than the SNL one where Bobby Moynihan's like, hey, you know, I'll keep them all in the package. I think it was us being like, I forget what it was, but you and I were basically like grown-ups and we were playing with X-Men toys. And I'm trying to remember what the angle was, but
I think it was like adults trying to make a cool action figure commercial for like Marvel Legends, but then trying to rapidly explain the incredibly complicated lore for these characters.
And being like, I don't even know who this guy is.
Yeah, where it's like, it's like Cyclops with optic blast, and Jean Grey with telekinesis, and it's their son Cable, a scrawny son Nathan Grayson, who's from the future, but sometimes they call him X-Man, but he's in different timelines, and I think he has a sister. You know, like just it was like completely trailing off.
This is Magneto, but from the Bryan Singer movies. Bryan Singer is actually on trial right now for it was shit like that. And I remember at one point I started mocking up a background for it that was just like this. It was like a shitty child's painting of a city. And I was like, oh, we can build it out of cardboard and stuff like that. And then we got distracted, and then I think they canceled the show. But
I think it was either COVID or we got canceled or both or something. I don't think we would have done that justice. You know, like that is. I would love to make a toy commercial someday, like just for fun. You know, just shoot it on my own. I remember I think we started making sets for that, and I got a bunch of spray paint and like cardboard shit and was getting stuff together to make like fake. You know, like a fake reactor that like you could throw an action figure into and knock over a bunch of pipes or whatever. But I stupidly bought spray enamel, which takes like a week longer to dry than the regular kind, and it smells like enamel, so it's super stinky. And I brought it to the office. We both had headaches because we were just sitting next to this like yellow spray painted coffee can or whatever it was.
We work with a guy named Kevin, KevCap, everyone calls him, and he was it during COVID? I think it might have been, right? Because this was like Resident Evil 8, right? Resident Evil, yeah. So he made a toy commercial for Lady D, the big vampire lady, and it's like him and his friend or him and his brother, and they're just like playing with this toy. They're just like, she's so big, she could step on you and all this stuff. And I remember you and I were just like, holy shit, you just made that for fun, like
he just
on
did
the
it.
side.
Yeah, no,
like,
he's a closer, man. He knows what he's doing. Gets shit done.
No,
yeah, they 3D printed a figure and everything. Let's talk about some real commercials though, because like we grew up with these. I want to point something out that toy commercials, we love them. We have a fond association with them. Maybe they don't rule so much because they are a direct byproduct of Reagan's deregulation of advertising through the FCC.
Yeah.
Basically in 1980, when Reagan took office, he was like, we're going to make it so that the government can't tell anybody what to do. And it's like, that's kind of the point of the government, but sure, whatever, go off. And he went to the FCC and was like, they changed a bunch of policies and stuff. One of the policies was up until that point, you basically couldn't market things directly to children on television, or you couldn't, there were certain limitations on what you could and couldn't do. Within a year of that decision, I think it's like 9 of the top 10 best-selling toy lines all had their own TV shows. So it's a direct correlation between like Reagan's policies and the fact that we got Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, and then as a result,
He-Man specifically is like that show was the toy commercial before they made toys that then became the toy commercials for that show and the toys, right? Like they very much were just like, we need to sell toys, let's make a cartoon. And they made the cartoon to sell the toys, and then they made commercials for the toys and for the
Transformers. They were 2 separate Japanese toy lines before they were Transformers. Like they were, they were.
No, you and I both have. I have a like RoboCop and Terminator action figures from the 80s and 90s that were based on adult or like mature R-rated movies, right? Because back then they didn't really care. Like we also had Joe Camel, who was just like, "Hey kids, I'm a cartoon. Have a cigarette." So we would go to Toys R Us. I'd buy an action figure. I'd go to 7-Eleven, get a pack of smokes. Being 8 was awesome.
I'm amazed we never got Joe Camel action figures. I feel like that's something that exists somewhere. But no, like I want to talk just about the commercials themselves because they're kind of a bizarre little art form. You talk about they have these have these dioramas they make. They have these like wonderful set pieces and. I don't know, like commercials. I love commercials on their own. I think commercials are a fascinating little, like they are, I don't know, I wouldn't call them an art form exactly, but as a form of media, they're brilliant. Like a good commercial is like you have what, 30 seconds, 15 seconds to get the point of something across.
Yep.
You're not necessarily telling a story, but there's got to be some kind of like point A to point B kind of thing. But toy commercials, on some level, they're kind of like game trailers in a lot of ways, where it's like, we're showing you the features and the mechanics. We're showing you what this thing looks like. It's like you get a toy commercial for Batman the Animated Series. They're not just showing you Batman the Animated Series. Like there'll be a clip of that in there, but they're going to show you the actual toy. And you're like, whoa, the toy.
They're going to...
What I love is
assume the subject matter a little bit too, right?
But they'll still set it up where they're like, here's this character who does this thing, and it's like maybe if you knew, sometimes they would just be way off where they're like, oh no, the evil Boba Fett is here, and you're like, he doesn't do it, he hasn't done anything yet, man. He's just showed up in the background one time. What the fuck? But like they, again, you've got this like rapid fire amount of information you got to get across. You got to tell the kids what's going on, what's the deal, and then also like hook them with what this thing can do, and. Toy commercials, they would glorify, or they would not glorify, they would like,
embellish is the word.
Yeah. They would
make it look like Duke could shoot a rocket powered plastic rocket like 100 miles across the backyard, and you'd get the toy and the spring loaded thing would just go like, beep.
Yeah. But occasionally you could conceivably recreate that. It's funny. You mentioned X-Men. I don't ever remember seeing commercials for the mainline X-Men figures. Like the first time I saw one of those, it was on a VHS tape for X-Men, I want to say, that my friend had. And I was blown away because it was This was after the toys were like everywhere. We were obsessed with them. Like it was the original Toy Biz line. And at that point, I think they put up they made an ad for it that I'd never seen before, and it had like a bunch of kind of like, it was like maybe the third series of toys, where I want to say they had like this, it was like the second Sabretooth, maybe the third Wolverine they'd done. Yeah.
Deeper cut dudes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was weird because it was characters who hadn't really played a role in the cartoon, but they were like kind of like, you know, nodding to the cartoon. And the whole thing felt sort of, I don't know, it kind of added to the appeal of X-Men. You know, like Turtles were like everywhere. They were on TV. They were, you know, they got commercials. It was just kind of this thing there. But even the fact that like X-Men the animated series was on, you know, Saturday mornings, and it wasn't like some underground thing, but the fact that the toys weren't constantly advertised on TV, but they were at KB Toys, and like there was this whole deeper universe of, you know, X-Men comics at the comic shop, which also sold the toys. There's something cool about that. What I love about toy commercials in particular is aside from the action feature challenge side of things, there's also the scale where you're shooting things in miniature basically, but you're not hiding the fact that it's miniature. Like you want to kind of basically give a blown up look at things. And this is especially exemplary in one of my favorite commercials, which is the very first Mighty Max commercial, where it goes, "Welcome to Skull Dungeon." And the whole thing like makes the Mighty Max playset look enormous. Like it looks like a TV set. Like they get in there really tight with these, like, I don't know what kind of lenses they use, but again, this was like 1993, so they're not using anything digital. They're not going in there with like a GoPro or like a little DSLR. Like they had to have big ass, you know, studio cameras to pull this off. And there's something, again, they don't make documentaries about the making of toy commercials from 35 years ago. That's not a thing, but I would love that if it was.
Me too. I remember like seeing that, and like my daughter has a bunch of Polly Pockets now, and like you said, like now they shoot things with like 4K and drones and shit like that. But when we were kids, seeing Mighty Max and then seeing them kind of pull back a little bit and seeing like a kid put the thing in his pocket or whatever, you were like, oh shit, like that, he's got an entire world in there inside of a skeleton. You know, and you open up that skeleton's face and there's, you know, a fucking Frankenstein and a mummy. The snake one was the one that blew my mind. I'm like, there's like a zip line in there. Like, it's so cool. One of my favorite ones early on. Do you remember the original Kenner Aliens toy commercials?
You mean the Aliens ones?
Yeah. So they did one that basically showed off like their kind of hero line, and they're fighting against various xenomorphs, right? And that's when they started doing the things originally where they had the gorilla alien, right? That was blue, and he just straight up fucking, I don't know if you remember, you can fill that thing's head with water. It was like rubber.
Oh
and
yeah,
you would squeeze it.
He had the grabbing action where you'd squeeze the two little pegs on his back, and he would like grab things, and then he would also squirt the water, which is that was a goddamn good toy line.
So what was great about that, so in the commercial, he just fucking straight up spits in like a Space Marine's face, which is disgusting. And you're kind of like, without the context of knowing what that toy does, you're like, does it have some sort of like viscous cream liquid inside it? Like, how are they doing this? But my favorite thing about that commercial is nobody in Alien, like none of the Aliens movies start with them, like there's no like, Sega, but for aliens, right? So the commercial starts with this like weird voice that goes, aliens. It's like this weird raspy deep voice, and you're immediately like, you're watching, you know, you're sitting there, it's like fucking 7 o'clock in the morning, you're in your like third bowl of Count Chocula or whatever, and all of a sudden the TV just screams aliens, and you just jump out of your chair and you're like, what is that? And then they're like, it cuts to a second later, like Bishop or whatever is like, we gotta kill those fucking things or whatever, however it goes. But never in the movies did they say that sound bite.
They never
didn't
just say,
like
it's not like Resident Evil. They don't just, the movie doesn't start. They go, aliens.
Then Requiem. They don't name the fucking thing at the beginning of the thing. So seeing this in a commercial blew my mind, because it was like, oh, you guys made up you made like a little sound, you made like a sound bite. You made like a drop for this creature, for this IP. It didn't have one before, which means that a bunch of people were in a room and they tested all these different ones, and they're like, aliens. And somebody was like, no, pretend like you just got hit by a truck and aliens. Like, I
love that.
It's so funny.
I actually don't remember those commercials super well, because when they first came on, I was scared shitless of aliens. And so I would like hide behind the couch when they came, because they had like clips from the movies in there, right? Like they would
Yeah,
roll in like
yeah.
a live action footage of, you know, a
It would be-
xenomorph.
It would be like a child's hand twisting a xenomorph, and then they would cut to just some shit from Aliens where it's about to kill somebody and rip someone's head off, but not show that part, and you just kind of be like, "Oh, that's what? Where are these from?"
Yep.
Like this is definitely from a movie I'm not allowed to see yet.
They're from a cartoon that never happened called Operation Aliens, which I would love more than anything if that showed up online someday. That would be great. You know what I love about that toy line is they definitely took liberties with the source material, like, but there was stuff that was surprisingly on model. You know, like Ripley was like, she wore like a bandana for some reason, but the power loader looks dope. Like the power loader is pretty close to the real thing. The funniest thing though is like, if you wanted just like a regular ass, like give me a vanilla xenomorph, the closest thing they had was the Scorpion alien. And that was the one that was kind of gold colored, and its action feature was it fucking exploded like a crash test dummy. Like you pushed a button,
it was
and
so
just-
annoying to play with. It was, dude, I had that one, and it was just like, yeah, you'd be like playing with like another toy, and you'd hit a button, and all of a sudden all of its body parts would fall apart. I think one of the Space Marines did that too, right? Was it Bishop or whatever?
yeah,
Or-
I think Bishop blew up.
yeah, one of them, his arms and legs would just fall off, and you're like, that's not really a fun feature. It's like your fucking toy breaks on its own. Do you remember the G.I. Joe hovercraft toy commercial?
That sounds familiar.
So it starts with a like a clip of the cartoon, might have even been the movie, where the G.I. Joe guys are driving around in the hovercraft, right? And if you're not familiar with what a hovercraft is, it's just a fucking boat that can go on land, but it doesn't do either of those things super well, right? It's like if you put the top half of a car on the bottom ass of a balloon, and you were like,
Bottom ass of a
go
Okay.
Joe.
Yo,
And so,
Joe.
It shows these two kids, and they're like, we got the fucking hovercraft. It's awesome. I don't know whether or it was cursing in my version. It's like, motherfuck yeah, the hovercraft is here. And they're playing with it on the sand, and then they just push it. They have two of them, and they push them into the filthiest water you've ever seen in your life.
Okay,
Like,
yeah, I
it's
totally
just-
remember this now. Yeah.
it's just like shit brown, piss yellow, disgusting. And these two hovercrafts come in, and they start showing all the action features. And one of them is that like it drops these like fucking grenade turds off the side that just probably sink into this shit water. And then this little man can shoot out of the side of it, and he's got like a little, what do they call that thing? When a guy shoots out of the side of a boat and he's like holding something that goes on its
Like
own.
that.
It's not a jet ski.
It's like a jetpack, but for scuba divers.
yeah, it's like
It's like a mil spec boogie board basically
Yes.
for underwater.
Yes. So they show that, and you're like, I don't even know. You guys are going to spend hours digging in the mud trying to find these things. But yeah, I remember seeing that one and being like, I want it, and then like either never seeing it in a store or seeing it in a store, and it was like just so expensive, and my mom was like, no. And I was like, okay, well, I tried.
Was that your Judge Reinhold Wiener whistle?
No, that was Technodrome was my Judge Reinhold
So I just
Wiener
want
whistle.
to that's an insane series of words to say out loud. But in the movie The Santa Claus, for anyone who's listening, there's the whole thing where Judge Reinhold plays this like woke psychologist who's like fucking
Yeah.
Tim Allen's ex-wife or whatever. And the whole thing is like, what's the one toy you always wanted as a kid? And he's like an Oscar Mayer Wiener whistle, which I think is like, I feel like that's kind of just a joke at his expense that he's like, he really wants to put a little wiener in his mouth.
No,
But at the end he gets it and he goes, wee. And it's like, okay.
It's such a weird shot too. I mean, that whole body horror of a film is disturbing as hell. But yeah, he's like, woo, he gets it.
Yeah, but it was like that was the thing he always wanted that he never got. So yours was the Technodrome?
No, my Judge Reinhold Wiener whistle was the Technodrome. What's your Judge Reinhold Wiener whistle?
What's your
Sound
safe
off
word?
in the-
Mine's Judge Reinhold Wiener whistle.
No, mine was the Technodrome, which I'm almost sure had a commercial. And I just
it
never,
kicked ass.
Yeah, I never got it. And I think with that one, my guess was they only sent, and this is all just anecdotal, but my guess is they didn't send a ton to stores, and the ones they did either sat there or sold out, and they were like, we're not really making more of them. It's like the thing is with play sets is they're fucking gigantic. And so when you saw commercials for play sets, you basically were like, and I didn't know this at the time, but it was like, I have to go get these now, because if I don't, they're not going to be here in a little while. And I remember specifically, and I've probably talked about this one before, but I have two younger brothers, which means that we had like several generations of stuff targeted at us. Where like Batman the animated series came out, and I bought the Wayne Manor Batcave playset, right? And it's really awesome. It's like the front of it looks like a haunted house, and the middle of it looks like his weird computer lab where he jerks off, and then the back of it is the cave, right? And you can drive the car through it, and it's like this trifold thing. It opens almost like a gatefold vinyl, and they repacked this thing for like every fucking Batman movie afterwards. And so like a couple years later, my brother was like, "Oh, they made a Batcave. I want to get it." And like my dad got it for Christmas and brought it home, and we were like, "It's just the same shit. They just put like Riddler trophies on it or whatever." And they did it again. They've done this so many times, but like it's not uncommon for action figures to get repainted and repacked, right? Like one of the funniest things ever was like watching there was a commercial for the GI Joe Street Fighter toys, and a bunch of them were like, I think like Zangief was repainted from this like wild tiger jungle woman they had in a previous line, and like the original Zangief toy had women's breasts.
What?
Yeah, like
no.
yeah, it was really odd because they also made what's his name, E Honda, and they'd never done a GI Joe like him before. It was just this huge sumo wrestler body, and it was like, oh shit, you guys have that mold? That's nuts. But yeah, it's normal to see that, but to see them repaint and repack entire play sets, like I remember after a certain point, I would just be watching a commercial and I'd be like, I know what that is. You put new paint on that one.
Yeah.
You fucking cheats. And
Well, it was
what useless information to have, right?
Yeah, no, definitely brain damage. But like Playmates did that with the TMNT pizza shooter, where they like re-released it for Chicken Run, and they just replaced all the pizzas with like chicken stuff, and then they re-released it again for like a different generation of Ninja Turtles, and then they made an actual one that they brought to Comic-Con one year. The Robin Hood Prince of Thieves line that Kenner put out in 1992 or whatever? Their whole thing the body
was that
parts,
the Gamorrean Guard?
Yeah, the Gamorrean Guard's body was Friar Tuck, and then a bunch of the other bodies were, I think, Superpowers figures. A friend of mine, I don't even know where the fuck he got it. He showed up with like two, not mint on card, but on card and heavily water damaged figures of Morgan Freeman. And we like, they all had like soft goods cloaks and stuff. They all had little like robes, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Screw it. We got one on card. Let's open one up. And we open it up. And it's basically the robe immediately disintegrated, and it was probably made of like asbestos or something, and it just like fell apart. It crumbled in my hands. And underneath, he's just got this like svelte, like lycra clad body. Like he's basically wearing little gray panties, and he's got like brown legs and brown arms, but then like a gray, it looks like he's wearing a women's bathing suit basically. And it's absolutely I think it's the body of the Flash or Green Lantern or something, but it's got Morgan Freeman's head, and it's just god awful. And worst of all is the plastic over 35 years or whatever. It had developed some sort of a patina, so it was sticky to the touch.
Oh,
it was just like you would touch it and it would just be like touching the back of a Post-it. And so I basically had to like douse it in rubbing alcohol and wipe it all down. And so now my daughter in her toy box has this possibly carcinogenic, sexually dressed Morgan Freeman figure for reasons that I will never be fully clear of myself.
It's like, I hate that we know this shit.
Yeah.
It's great that we know this shit, but the fact that we're both stumbling over each other to be like, say these obtuse facts that are just so useless. And I feel like I would, like, we'd be on a game show one day and somebody would be like, what is the biggest region in Canada? And we'd be like, Friar Tuck's body is the Gamorrean Guard. And people would be like, the fuck is wrong with you?
The Ewok battle wagon got repurposed as a Robin Hood vehicle. Why did he have a vehicle? I don't know.
I've quoted this like 1,000 times, but there's an episode of Married with Children where Kelly Bundy is learning for a test, and for every new fact she learns, like another one falls out of her head, and they animate it crudely. And I feel like that's us with this shit. Like, it's just, at some point somebody told us something important. We were like, Friar Tuck's body is the Gamorrean Guard. Yeah. I don't even remember that. I think I saw that Robin Hood movie in theaters.
I've never even seen that movie. I haven't seen that fucking movie. I've seen Robin Hood Men in Tights, but I haven't seen the one with like
Men in Tights is a classic. I think I told you the funniest thing about that movie, besides it being really funny, was I saw it in theaters with my friend, and this random guy in the theater farted, and my friend stood up and pointed at him and said, "He did it."
All right. So speaking of big time Hollywood movie celebrities, I fell down a weird little rabbit hole of famous actors who were in toy commercials before they were famous.
Are you starting with the biggest one? Vin Diesel Street Sharks?
So that's not technically a commercial, but that's definitely on there.
It's not a commercial?
It's not a commercial. It was that was okay. So it was, I want to say it was probably Toy Fair 1993 or 4. And they had a video that I think it was sent to distributors, but it was Vin Diesel wearing a little leather vest. And he's basically showcasing all of the action features of the Street Sharks line. And he's using them. And you can tell this isn't a toy commercial because they legally couldn't do this on TV. He's using him to like punch Ninja Turtles off the table. And he's like, oh yeah, take that. And just like, and yeah. I love that the Vin Diesel timeline is like, that dude has the most insane fucking career because it's like, okay, he was in the background of Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, I think. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay, so he was in there somewhere. Then he was in a Street Sharks internal use only demo video. Then he was in Saving Private Ryan. Then he was the Iron Giant. And then he was in the Fast and Furious stuff. And the whole time, he's like, I want to make a movie about my character from D&D. Which they eventually did during COVID and no one saw it. That was the like witch hunter or something or other. But yeah, and then he made his own Star Wars with Riddick. Like what, the guy's just like all over the place. But
it's so weird.
So yeah, that's one. I would say the MVP of commercials, kid commercials, is Seth Green, who has basically been in he's been in toy commercials his whole life. It continues to be if you count Robot Chicken. Actually, I don't know if that's still on or not. Probably not. But he was when he was really little, he was in a commercial for Yar's Revenge for the Atari 2600, and he's like unrecognizable. He looks, and
wow,
partially because it's like a video recorded off of like 1970s television. And he shows up again in like a Burger King commercial, and then he's in when he's like a teenager, he shows up in a Nerf slingshot commercial, and he goes from like he's basically like dweeby little brother in the Yar's Revenge commercial, and he's like, can I stay up late and play video games tonight? And then in the Nerf slingshot one, he's just at the mall food court like whooping foam balls at people while they're trying to eat, Del Taco or whatever. And he's like, what's up, everybody? It's the Nerf slingshot. And I definitely have I feel like some degree of my personality has been absorbed from like what a toy commercial's idea of a cool guy is. But on a similar note, there is Paul Rudd, who was in that Super Nintendo commercial, which is
I interviewed him about that this year, which was very weird and surreal. Because I had seen that Super Nintendo commercial growing up and never at all put together that he was in it. And I think it had gone viral a couple years ago, and I just missed that. So I had just gotten this email from Nintendo being like, you want to interview Paul Rudd about the Super Nintendo commercial? And I was like, okay, I have to do some research.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very funny one. Like it's also that is so quintessentially 90s because there's a lot of like action, just like slamming the cart into the thing, and there's like electricity, and like he's got this big like coat on, and like it's got one of those like overhead crane shots that like it's on this weird angle, and you're like, that's talking to Jesus.
We're talking about toy commercials. Mm-hmm. Video game commercials from that period they had a lot of overcompensating to do because video games kind of look like shit back then. Like you put them on TV and you're like, check it out. It's just, you're like, okay, it's fun to play, but it's, like the early Super NES games, you're not going to blow anyone's mind with that unless you put it on a giant fucking wall of TVs and you put it behind a chain link fence and you got a bunch of burning oil drums and it's on like a crane shot and there's just like wind machines blowing around and Paul Rudd's there in a 70
minutes into the feature film The Wizard, right?
Exactly.
People are already like, what's this movie about? Autism? I can't tell.
I'm gonna give The Wizard points for being okay. So Paul Rudd is also in a McDonald's commercial that was the feature film Mac and Me. I feel like that counts there.
They did Happy Meal toy commercials, right? I want to say they did.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got it.
But no, he was in. Yeah, he famously showed up in Mac and Me. That they keep showing that clip on Conan O'Brien and him falling down the hill or whatever. On a similar note, Tobey Maguire was in a very popular Nintendo commercial, which was The Wizard. He's one of the background kids who hangs out with that dude. Who is it? The guy with the power glove? What's his name? Cody?
I don't
Logan?
Remember. I know he went to jail for doing some bad stuff.
Okay,
to kids.
well he loves the power glove because he's so bad. He's also very bad. Anyway, Tobey Maguire is one of his henchmen. like Tobey Maguire in The Wizard basically plays the same role that Elijah Wood plays in Back to the Future, where he's just like, he's like child standing on the far side of the screen while someone else is playing video games.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Tobey Maguire also was in that Atari Lynx commercial where the kid is playing the Atari Lynx on the toilet.
That's him?
Yeah. Where he's like pretending to take a shit and he's just playing Atari Lynx.
Because I specifically remember that commercial coming out and me and my friends clowning on it at school like that week and just being like, dude, you see that thing with the Atari Lynx? Yeah, they're like, whoa, we're supposed to go in the boys' room and just fucking take a shit and play surfing against each other. We're not doing that. Let's stick with our Game Boys and Game Gears. Yeah, it was rough for them.
Jack Black was in Pitfall. He was in a Pitfall commercial, which is really weird because first of all, he's like a skinny little kid. And I feel like Jack Black, he's been various shapes and sizes, but he's never like been like particularly slight, and he's just this scrawny little kid and his face looks totally different. And he's wearing a stupid ass pith helmet. And I feel like that was a big factor in him being in Jumanji because he basically plays the same character where they're like, just put on the stupid fucking pith helmet and go hang out by some vines. And he's stoked on Pitfall. Mila Kunis was in a bunch of commercials. She was in one for Telephone Tammy. She was in some Lisa Frank commercials. Telephone Tammy. Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of actors who show up in like non-toy commercials, but obviously that's a place that people do acting. Seth Green is in like a shitload of commercials. I actually found like an 8-minute compilation of commercials he's in, which is kind of wild.
And he went on to do Robot Chicken, which is
so he's
playing with action figures.
Yeah, he's a legit toy nerd, which I appreciate about him. Back in the day, I mean, I feel like he grew up on toy commercials. Basically, probably got to. I feel like he probably always wanted to be in action figure commercials, but they're like, no, you got to be in a Burger King commercial, and he's like, oh dang. But yeah, I have an old issue of Toy Fair magazine, or I did. I probably got rid of it. But he was the guest editor, and the funny thing at that point was he had an action figure of himself from Austin Powers. Like they had a Scott Evil figure.
Oh right, right.
Yeah, and so they had this whole like, they used to have the little comics, which were basically a precursor to Robot Chicken, where they're like, great news, everybody, it's guest editor, Seth Green, and there's just like there's a little diorama with him, and he's hanging out with, I think it was like Aerith and Tifa from Final Fantasy, and he's like, what's up, ladies? Or like, he's like, I brought my groupies with me or something, and it was just like, it's him playing with dolls and like totally poking fun at himself, which is wonderful. But then they wound up like completely leveraging Twisted Toy Fair Theater into a whole,
who did those toys? Was that McFarlane?
Oh, the FF7 ones?
No, the Austin Powers ones.
Oh, McFarlane was Austin Powers. Yeah.
Fuck, that's so weird.
Yeah, those were really good figures. That was kind of McFarlane when they were they were really going for it. They did a lot of weird shit at that point.
Blown his mind.
McFarlane, I don't think they ever had toy commercials outside of the first wave of Spawn figures.
Yeah.
Like they put out that very first one that has, I want to say they got the Spawn Mobile and the Violators tractor trailer or whatever that thing is like attack pack truck. And yeah, I mean, at that point he was just like, yeah, we don't need to put this on TV. People are going to buy my sick fucking action figures regardless. They don't give a shit.
I mean, also like after that, he just did a bunch of like tortured soul shit and like, just twisted mutant people who were just,
we made like, he's like, here's an action figure of Elizabeth Bathory in a bathtub full of blood. Why not?
Yeah.
That's Vlad the Impaler with heads on stakes.
Have you seen the commercial for the AT-AT or the AT-AT from I think it was either for Return of the Jedi or for Empire Strikes Back. I want to say it was for Jedi because the kids are playing with it in the forest, but there's one of those ones that like I watched for the first time a couple years ago, and what's really funny about it is it's just two kids that thing is basically the size of like a dog, right?
Yeah.
And so they're sitting next to it and they're moving its legs like it's just like this old dog. But one of the action features on that thing is it has these two missiles that come out of the front, and it just looks like a dog's going la, 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 la. Like it looks like a dog has two little tongues that are just sticking out, and they're just like petting him in the woods basically. It's amazing.
I totally forgot one. There's an Empire Strikes Back commercial with Christian Slater.
Oh shit!
When he's just like unrecognizable as a child. Also, there's a Return of the Jedi toy commercial. This one doesn't count. There's a Return of the Jedi toy commercial that stars the little boy who plays Stallone's son in Over the Top. The one who's like, "You sir are going to be a victim of cholesterol poisoning."
No, but we're we're buddies with Danny Tamborelli, who, you know, he's done a bunch of our shows in the past, and he was, you know, younger Pete on Nickelodeon's Pete and Pete. He's a wonderful dude, super funny, and he invited me to be on one of his comedy shows a couple years ago, and you guys came through to watch. And at one point, I think he showed us, and this blew my mind because I remember seeing this growing up, that he was in a commercial for what was it? Was it Last Action Hero?
It was the Last Action Hero action figures.
The Last Action Hero action figures, and I forget what he does in it. Right? I mean, probably what any kid does.
He gets
Just
excited
like,
about the
holy
action.
shit.
Yeah,
He
like,
just gets excited.
Missiles. He punches.
Yeah, and that was like, that was amazing to be there in the moment that happened, because it was one of those, like, I know I saw this growing up and I have no recollection of it anymore.
I mean, I think that's the running theme with all of these is like, you're not paying attention to the human children in this commercial. They're supposed to be like an avatar for you. Like, you're like, that could be me enjoying Super Nintendo or an AT-AT in the woods, you know, like, and you're not looking at who the kids are. And also at that point, you know, you're like, you don't know who Tobey Maguire is. He's not Spider-Man. You don't give a shit. It's not.
So you really don't remember seeing the Batman the Animated Series ones?
I mean, I'm sure I do.
I feel like if I sent them to you, you'd be like, okay, yeah. Because one of the things I remember specifically is, like, he really kicks Two-Face's ass. Like, he kicks Two-Face's ass, and then he leaves. And by he, I mean Batman. And he gets in this vehicle that you never see anywhere, which is, you know, toys. And it's like a helicopter with feet.
All right, I'm pulling it up now.
It's got these claws, and so he shoots Two-Face in the arm to disarm him with like a missile from a helicopter, and then he uses a claw to grab him to, I guess, carry him all the way across the city to jail.
Did Two-Face, did that figure actually come with a gold necklace?
I actually don't know, because I have, you know, I weirdly, in my office right now, I have two versions of the movie Two-Face that are just different paints, and one of them is like holofoil, and the other one is just like whatever you know, screen accurate. So I don't think I ever got the animated series Two-Face.
Yeah, in this commercial, he's just wearing like a big gold chain, like he's in Uncut Gems or something. Like it's kind of wild, and I feel like they didn't include it because it's probably a major choking hazard. Yeah, I totally remember these toys. We just talked about we talked a few weeks ago about the using magnifying glasses to burn shit. I think that particular Batman is the one that I set on fire with my magnifying glass.
Oh my god, that's such a good figure too. The not technically like an action figure, but still a toy. The Creepy Crawlers commercials.
Oh my god!
Because again, like any commercial where you're sitting there and it just says that it just opens on the tagline, and for them it was Creepy Crawlers, and there's these kids being like, "Look at all these fucking bugs and shit you can make, and you can melt this thing." Cool. I remember that, and I remember it was I saw this Reddit thread going around the other day of like, what's this, you know, what's the toy, what's your, you know, fucking Judge Reinhold wiener whistle, basically. And this guy was like, oh, I really wanted that that Terminator Play-Doh set.
Oh, the one where you put the big squishy bodies on them?
You could put like human skin, like, and no skeletons on them, or over the skeletons, right? It was just like you would put these flesh covering, and then they would get in fights and they'd have battle damage, but they weren't articulated. So it was just a guy standing there covered in skin. He looked like the torsos they have at gyms for people to box. Mm-hmm. And his like skin would fall off, and you could put a dick on him and make his butt cheeks huge and stuff like that. And somebody else was like, yeah, I had that, man, it sucked. And I thought about it, and I was like, I did have that too, and yes, it did suck, because I remember Terminator 2 came out and I was like, this is awesome, I need to get this toy, this is great.
You know what was the anti-toy commercial?
Yeah.
Was the anti-toy commercial was going to a friend's house who'd already played with that toy and lost half the shit, or used up all the things, or taken the batteries out, or whatever it was that, you know, took the toy's power away. And you're just like, wow, that toy commercial is no longer, the spell is broken. I'm no longer impressed by this theater.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, I mean, like once half the pieces were missing and the doors were gone on the car and the missiles were lost and stuff like that, you were kind of like, oh, Yeah, I'm good.
That's
Thank
one of
you.
my
Thank
that's
you,
one of my
man.
things as a dad is like not being neurotic about that.
Yeah.
Like just kind of being like, you know what, you're gonna lose your shit.
No, do
There's
you know those things world's smallest?
yeah, the little mini accessory things
Yeah.
that don't have any one cohesive scale, which drives me up the
No,
wall.
it's fucking insane. So my kid was like really into Candyland a couple years ago. It was like her first favorite board game. And I was like, well, we should get like a little one that we can throw in a bag, and like when we're out at a restaurant or something we can play it. And I didn't realize that like Milton Bradley and all those companies, they make these like ones now that are like slightly smaller than like a VHS tape, and they open up, and they're kind of cheap and shitty, but they get the job done. I didn't know that, so I got the world's smallest one. And at some point my kid decided it's an accessory for her Barbies. And so it comes with a full set of the cards. Like if you're familiar with Candyland, you have to like you pull a card and it says like, go to the purple space, or like, uh-oh, you got the chocolate chip, you got to go to the top, or you got the mint, you got to go all the way back to the beginning. And it's got these four little gingerbread people in it. And she at some point just decided in the last week to just put those all over the house. And so I've been finding like Candyland cards fucking everywhere. Like it's stuck to the bottom of a shoe, and like, in a plant. And I'm like, how did this happen?
That's the
So, yeah,
funniest thing
I
about parenthood is like there's all this shit that you remember being great as a kid, and maybe some parent was like not wild about it, and then as a parent you're like, oh, that's why this sucks. That's why I hate this. That's why fuck slime. That's somebody gave it was like it wasn't even, it was like a like a video game swag item that was a little treasure chest. And I think it probably had like a USB key or something in it, but it was like, hey kid, you want this thing? And the rest of it was like fake crystals, like just kind of little plastic gems or whatever.
Oh.
And there's about infinity of them, and they're just in there, and there's no lock of this goddamn treasure chest. And I was like trying to clean up my kids' little cesspool in the corner of the living room where it's just piles of random shit put together. And I was like in the process of cleaning, and I bumped this thing off the table, and it exploded crystals everywhere. And I was just like, did I just in the process of cleaning make an even bigger mess than there was here originally? Like, what are we doing? What is going on here?
No, that's like if you want to be enemies with somebody forever, send them a Christmas card, and in the envelope put glitter.
Oh yeah. No, that's
Like I had someone do that. A couple people did that to us a couple years ago.
Yeah, glitter
and
bomb.
yeah, it's just like a legalized glitter, or like a non-hate crime glitter bomb.
Yeah, it's legal anthrax.
Mm-hmm.
Less
No, I
lethal.
remember we saw the commercial for My Buddy. I don't know if I've talked about My Buddy on this show, but My Buddy was
I thought
this
I was
like
your buddy.
I am. Yeah, you are my buddy. This My Buddy is a lot shorter than you are. He's like a quarter scale to an actual, maybe third scale to an actual kid.
Did he cover before or after the Child's Play movies?
I want to say those were happening around the same time.
Okay, because yeah, My Buddy was definitely. I know this thing. I put him in the same category as that like My Monster or whatever. There's that one that's like that. You know what I'm talking about? That Monster Man.
And so my brother, we saw this commercial every day or every Saturday during cartoons, and probably every day during Disney afternoon. And they were just like, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy. And we were like, we need to get this thing. And my Santa brought it, and my brother got it. And on Christmas Eve opened it up. And we had like 25 Italians over our house, including my nonna, who at the time, my nonna's been like 95 years old for 40 years, basically. She's been she's like, she wears like an apron to sleep. She's lovely. She's wonderful. She's like 5'1", and old lady, stocky with gray hair,
Just
only
Stregonona,
speaks
right?
Italian. Yeah. Just Google clip art, picture of a Italian grandmother, and it's her. And, she's never been able to like see well or hear well, and she can't speak English. And Medon is a thing that old Italian ladies say when they're scared, which is basically like Madonna or like the Virgin Mary, or whatever it is. And so my kid left the fucking My Buddy on like the steps or on the bottom of the steps or something, and she was coming down and she stepped on its head and thought it was just like a dead kid on the floor. So that's number one. Number two, we would just beat the hell out of this thing. We just bring it out in the yard and just throw it into a tree. Like it was just like, and number three, my dad would put it, my dad would drive us to school and put it in a car seat in the back of the car so he could get in the carpool lane when he worked in New York City. It's fucking this little dead kid. And I think eventually we just like, we beat it up so much that its head ripped off.
Just threw it off an overpass, caused a car accident.
Yeah, it's the good son, basically. So yeah, my buddy. That's thank you for that commercial.
That was the working title of The Good Son, is my buddy.
My I really liked, there was a bunch that were Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles where we probably talked about this on the slime episode, but Ghostbusters did a line of figures where they're so scared their eyeballs and ears and shit pop out.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen those?
Yeah, they're great.
So they're great. They look stupid regularly because they're little plastic toys and their mouths open like fucking nutcrackers and shit. So you're looking at this toy and you're like, the fuck is wrong with this thing? And then you squeeze its legs or, push its arms together and all of a sudden it's like, all this shit pops out of its head. But that was one of my favorite ones where I was just like, whoa, they fucking transform into scared adults. That's a great action feature. Mom, can we get in the car?
I bought a mummy from that line, I think. And it was like extremely used. And it has some action feature, but it's so old that I couldn't tell what the action feature is supposed to be. And I want to say its head falls off, but I'm not sure if the head was just broken and it just was falling off anyway. Like I wasn't sure. I couldn't tell is this a bug or a feature, basically.
I had that toy and I'm trying to remember
a good mummy.
Yeah. No, there was another one there. They did it was like a hunchback, like a Quasimodo. And okay, no, so the mummy's helmet falls off, or like his hat, basically.
Okay, so it's even less
does your toy have a head underneath it?
It's like a little head, maybe?
Yeah, it's like a little, it just looks like a little.
Okay, maybe it's not a good mummy. I think I like the shape of the mummy, but I don't. Yeah.
It glows in the dark, or I think
that's probably why I like it. I like a good glow in the dark mummy.
No, it's a decent mummy.
It's a decent. Okay, I got my mummy's worth. All right, so do you know the first toy commercial ever?
No.
Mr. Potato Head.
Oh no shit.
1952. First television toy commercial.
Was it for the actual, because I know the original Mr. Potato Head was literally body parts you shoved into a potato.
That's it.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. So it was commercials for that.
So
and so
gross.
It looks like a absolute nightmare. Like if they're gonna put that on TV, they might as well put McFarlane's Tortured Souls. It's fucking horrible. Really awful.
I can't even imagine. I mean, how good does a country have to be doing economically for that to happen? Because I feel like now with everything, I would just be like, I mean, we also there was literally like a potato famine at one point. It's like what a fuck you to a farmer, right? No, if my kid was just like, can I get a potato so I can shove body parts in it? I'd be like, no, I'm cooking that. That was like $4.
That's actually funny. It's not funny. The potato famine ended exactly 100 years before America was like, great news, everybody, the newest toy is here. It's the potato. You can put fucking googly eyes on it. It's got a wife. It's got yeah.
A lot of people's Judge Reinhold Wiener Whistles was just dinner, just having food on the table, just having a potato for dinner, and they couldn't have it.
It's amazing that one of the first toy commercials we got in America was effectively healthy food, and then you fast forward about 30 years and they're like, no, the toys will be nonsense, they will be plastic, they will get half-hour blocks dedicated to inspiring children to go buy them, to beg their parents for them. We're not even gonna get started on the food we'll advertise to children. Blue raspberry, why the fuck not?
You know how the potato famine ended, right? It was Judge Reinhold's great-great-grandfather bites into a potato, and then you see Santa Claus fly away.
I think that's probably true. I'm not gonna fact check you on that, because I'm sure some more important piece of information fell out of your head for you to learn that.
There was nobody filmed it at the time, unfortunately, but it happened. It's people, boots on the ground. People were saying that's the way it went down. Just biting into a raw potato.
All right,
we did it.
I think we're done here.
I think we're done here.
I think we did it. Vehicles and figures each sold separately. Batteries not included. Before we go, just a reminder, This Thing Rules is made possible thanks to the support of our Patreon backers. If you'd like to help us keep the lights on and get some extra bonus stuff for yourself, you can go kick us a buck or two at patreon.com/thisthingrules. But really, every little comment, like, subscribe, share, or other form of engagement goes a long way. So if you've got a minute, give us a plug on social media, or go give us a nice review on iTunes, or just write something weird. I don't care. It's nice that you made the effort. And finally, a big, huge, extra special thank you to Patreon executive producers for this month: Ben Burkhalter, Anthony DePiro, Nick Vaughn, Paul Atienza, Kevin Lemasurier, Steve Cam, Caleb Hilliard, Billy McKendry, and Chip Chunkling. Thank you so much for your continued support. You rule.
My weenie whistle.